Welcome back to another training talk video. I tried to record this yesterday, but the audio didn't work. So I'm here trying to record this again. And the concept, or one of the general concepts of this next two units that we're learning about, is confidence and self-efficacy. And self-efficacy is related to confidence, but it's basically just how confident you are in how you are going to be able to perform a certain task. And there's factors that influence that. So it's not just an internal feeling that you have. I guess in a sense it is the amount of internal confidence that you have, but it's influenced by other factors, whether it's past experience practicing, the how you are physically feeling on that day, if you're tired or energetic, or just the people that are around you. And that is the example that I kind of pulled upon. What I talked about in the discussion posts. I talked about the deadlift I did about a month or two ago. I forget exactly how long ago it was, but when I did a 305 kilogram deadlift, I was pretty confident to take a heavy attempt, but I certainly was motivated more by the people that are around me. So one of the things that can add to your confidence is, I think it's like verbal persuasion or something like that. But essentially, if you played a sport growing up, you have a coach come out and say, like, you can do it, I know you can. Just like stuff like that is that general concept. In the context of lifting, it's people saying, like, that looks really strong. It looks like you can pull a lot more. What's your PR? You definitely got to try that today. So it's like that kind of just general, like, I don't say bro talk during the gym, but just like the conversations that you have when you're around other people, when you're lifting, that just general encouragement is something that can put more confidence in you. And I will say, probably on a day like that, on most days when I'm doing a heavy deadlift, like if I do like a 290 kilogram deadlift, I'm pretty happy on that day. And if I get to like a 305 and or a PR on that particular day, and it's really hard, I might just stop because I don't I don't want to break myself to do it. But when you have people that are encouraging you, you kind of go above and beyond what you would normally want to do or be able to do on a certain day to try a bit harder, particularly when it's a difficult lift. In that case, that was the most I ever deadlifted in my life. So obviously that's going to be, a pretty difficult lift. But outside of just the verbal thing, them just visually looking and them being very strong people and me not wanting to look like a knucklehead and miss a lift, it increases that motivation. So that's kind of like external factors that play, which is another part of self-efficacy. But I think that's something that's a really big thing. If you have people that are watching you that know what you're doing and the level that you're trying to attain on that particular day or how difficult it is, it does kind of elevate you. And obviously that can be to a detriment if you are someone that maybe has really high anxiety and you have like 100 people that are watching you, maybe in a competition, and you're not used to that, that can be too much. But if you have people that you're familiar with, an environment that you're familiar with, or you're just used to being, watched while you lift in different ways, then it can certainly enhance your performance in that particular lift. So essentially, that's what I talked about. But in a more general idea, being very confident in what you're doing and the program that you're completing and the exercises that you're completing on a certain day and the weights that you're attempting is something that's important to be able to build through practice in your training and to build through just years of doing the same stuff over and over and over. And if you don't have that confidence, you're not going to be able to push the weights up like you need to if you want to continue to be able to get stronger. So it's an important thing to think about and to make a part of your training. And so a lot of ways that you can implement that as far as a programming concept is maybe, in a sense, if you don't have confidence with heavy singles, is programming more higher intensity singles so you have that practice and the confidence with it. Because it's not just so much you want to neurologically adapt to those heavy weights. You want to be able to practice at how it's going to make you feel emotionally attacking those weights to know, like, all right, did I have to get super hyped up, or was I able to like kind of chill out and then do the lift, or what did I have to do to get into the mindset to do it? I need someone to slap me on the back to do it, whatever it happens to be. And so not necessarily pre-planning those methods to make you more confident prior to lift, but just being aware that if you're someone that's a bit apprehensive about trying a new PR or trying a new heavy weight, to know that you can plan for that apprehension by practicing with lighter loads, by building up to that point, so then you have the confidence, you can feel good going into that. Because if your best squat is 200 kilograms, for instance, and you want to get it up to 220 or 230, you're not just always going to go to 200 and then jump right to 220 every time and then miss it and then be really unconfident and then not want to try it again. Excuse me. You're going to take smaller jumps or different jumps to be able to get up to that weight. Or maybe you want to do 200 for a triple, and then you know that you can go up from that weight and maybe jump to 215 and then have that confidence to jump up to 220 the next time, whatever it happens to be. But just being aware that the confidence that you feel during the lift is also important. And that kind of ties into kind of the neurological tolerance to a certain lift. If you are trying to put a new heavy weight on your back for, say, a back squat, I'm thinking that because that's what I'm going to be doing here in a little bit, and you've never even like held that weight on your back, it's going to feel really heavy unless you have an extreme amount of heightness for that lift. And that, for me personally, if I put a weight on my back and it's supposed to be like, 98% or 100% of my best squat, and it doesn't feel heavy when I'm taking it off, I am so confident in that lift. I know I'm going to absolutely smash it, and there's no doubt in my mind. But one of the mental barriers I had to get over with some of my heavy lifts is, even if it feels really heavy, you could still do the lift, and it could still be a really good lift. It's just going to probably feel heavy sometimes, like just the sheer amount of weight. And if it's a 95+% weight, especially like once you get above a certain weight with like a weightlifting bar, it's going to be kind of like shaking around and stuff. So it might even feel heavier than it would normally if it was just like a power bar, the bar wasn't moving around as much. Or if you're just more accustomed to it, like it might just feel really heavy. And so understanding that, but still being confident enough, like I've done the work, I have prepared, the previous one felt good, this is a normal jump. You kind of talk yourself through, like I did all of the correct things to go with it. But at the same time, if you're talking to yourself, you're like, I didn't really sleep well, my knee's been really hurting on all these reps, and my back feels kind of weird. And then you just cut it off. You just cut it off and not do it, because you can always live to fight another day. You should be 100% confident before you attack a weight. And it doesn't mean that it always has to be 100% on the dot, I suppose. You can waver a little bit, but it has to be at a certain point, that breaking point where it's like below a certain amount. It's like, all right, I don't have the confidence to try this. I need to get stronger. I need to practice it more to have that confidence. So kind of thinking through that with your programming for a squat or any movement in particular with that. The other thing that was mentioned, I think it was something that is important and I wanted to touch upon, is the environmental factors and your confidence using or having the confidence in your lifting or in your programming and accounting for those external factors. So, for instance, if you don't sleep really well, you're feeling sick, you have a really achy joint, you may not perform as well on that day, even if you're really confident in the program, you did lifted well like for 2 weeks prior to that, you may just have a bad session. And understanding that a bad session or a bad day or feeling crappy on a certain day or a certain movement is not the end-all be-all to ruining your program, or that doesn't mean that the next day is going to be really bad. It's having that belief that in general, in everything that you're doing, is moving the needle in a way that you want to move it in. And I think that's something that's important for every person to have, no matter what program you're running, no matter what kind of training that you're doing, is to have the overarching belief that every training session that you do, whether it's a big, small, light, heavy, is going to move the needle in the direction of getting stronger and better at your lifting. Obviously, there are exceptions if you have a catastrophic injury of some sort, but normal sessions in any context of being heavy, lighter, lots of repetitions, max singles, whatever it happens to be, is going to move the needle in a positive way. And so knowing that, like, I missed today's session because a deer hit my car, or I've slept really bad and now I feel like all my joints hurt because I'm sick. It's like understanding that that day may suck, but the subsequent days may not be that bad. Another concept to kind of think about that's related to that as well, that's applicable to training as well, is to pre-plan or to have the foresight of stressful things that are going to impact your training. So for instance, I just went to a wedding the last week. Not that for me personally was stressful because I was just a part of the wedding. I wasn't my own personal wedding, but it is an event. It is something that is out of the norm as far as my weekly occurrence to go to an event, to be in a tuxedo, to be celebrating all of that stuff. It is certainly something that I have to pre-plan for, to know, like obviously months in advance I knew it was happening, but like in the week leading up to it, being able to adjust my training sessions, knowing that, all right, I could probably lift in the morning on that wedding day, but I'm probably not going to lift that great, and understanding that that's a real possibility, and then being happy with getting any amount of work done, and realizing that even if I didn't even train on that day, it's not the end of the world, but being happy that I had the confidence to go out there, even if I felt in the case of that wedding day pretty achy from in that morning with that training. And so thinking about those stressors that you have in your life and adjusting your training days, or adjusting where you place certain exercises in a week to account for those. So you don't go into like, I was supposed to go heavy on Saturday. Well, now I have this wedding. Well, I'm just going to max out in the morning, and then it goes terrible because you're lifting at a time you're not used to. You're dealing with other factors you don't normally deal with, and then you lift really bad, and then you feel really sad about your lifting. Sorry about that. But thinking about those and pre-planning those allows you to avoid those, or at least manage them in a better way. Because as any of us get older or go through life in general, there's just things that are going to either happen or that are going to happen. The things that are unexpected, like getting sick or not sleeping well or having a back spasm or like what random stuff that happens, you can't pre-plan for. All you can kind of do is understand your reaction to it and try to mitigate a lot of the negative thoughts that you have to try to push forward in a positive way. But if you know like you're going to be at an event later in the week, you can easily adjust those, and understanding that maybe if you have to adjust your workouts in a certain way where you're not going to feel as confident and be able to dial things back, or to push on a different day if you like, right, well, on Saturday, I know that I'm probably not going to have a great training session day. So I know on this Thursday, I can probably go ham because I feel pretty good. And I know at worst, like I'm going to have 2 days that could be completely trash as far as training goes, and just adjusting with that. So I kind of touched upon a bunch of different concepts, I suppose, in this training talk video. But those were the main things I talked about yesterday, and I wanted to not necessarily reiterate because it's the first time that I've, I guess, talked about it since the video didn't work there. But this is some of the conceptual stuff that was talked about in my grad school class, so confidence and self-efficacy and stuff like that. And I kind of wanted to relate it back to training since that's what I'm all about on my channel. It's a big part of my life. But that's going to be it for this one. If you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments below, or if you hated it, make sure you leave me hate comments so I can make another comment video making fun of you. Not that I would ever do that, but I'll talk to you all in the next video, and I hope you all have a great day. Peace.